I grew up hearing elders say that some trees are not meant to be cut. At the time, I thought it was just superstition. Now I know better. This happened in a small village near the old Zamindari belt of eastern Uttar Pradesh. You can drive past it without noticing. Fields, buffalo, a dusty chai stall, the same cracked hand pumps, kids playing cricket with a stick. The kind of place where time doesn't move forward, it just circles. But the Haveli there doesn't circle. It waits. They call it Fel Kothi. Nobody remembers who Fel was. And if you ask 3 people, you'll get 5 different stories. One guy swore it was an Englishman who died of fever. Another said it was a nickname for fell like fallen, like the house fell under a curse. The only thing everyone agrees on is the upstairs bedroom and the peepal tree beside it. That tree used to touch the bedroom window like it owned it. Thick branches, shiny heart-shaped leaves, roots like knuckles. You'd stand in the courtyard and feel it watching you, stupid as that sounds. The locals didn't go near it. They'd walk around the courtyard edge like it was a well with no rope. Even the goats wouldn't graze under it unless you beat them. I didn't come there chasing ghosts. I came because I needed money, and because rich people from villages do this thing where they decide to prove they're modern by poking at whatever everyone fears. My name doesn't matter. You can call me whatever you want. I'm not telling you this because I want sympathy. I'm telling you because I'm tired of carrying the weight of it like a stone in my chest. I keep hearing that knock, and I keep thinking about the smell on that morning, like burnt skin and old oil, and how the whole village pretended it wasn't real because it was easier to call a story. I was a mason's helper back then. Not a master mason, not some fancy contractor. I mixed cement, hauled bricks, carried doors on my shoulder, climbed scaffolding with my hands, shaking from cheap beedi and chai. I'd done temple renovations, boundary walls, bathrooms for people who thought a flush toilet made them kings. I worked in old houses too, big ones, the kind with thick walls that stay cool even in May. I thought I'd seen everything a building could hide. Snakes, bats, skeletons of dogs, drunk men asleep in lofts. Nothing prepares you for a house that feels like it's listening. It started when Raghavendra Singh came back from Calcutta. That's what everyone said. Like Calcutta was a cleansing fire, and he'd walked out a new man. He wore pressed shirts and polished shoes that sank in the mud. He smelled like cologne instead of sweat. He spoke in that half-English way educated people do to remind you you're small. He called the village backward with a smile, like he was doing you a favor by saying it kindly. He was Rao Madhav Singh's grandson, 2 generations down from the landlord who built his ego into every wall of the Kothi. Raghavendra had inherited Fel Kothi in a chunk of land and the kind of entitlement that doesn't need a shout because it's never been denied. He wanted to renovate, not because he loved the house. He wanted to sell parts of the land, modernize the rest, make the Haveli heritage for rich city people who like to take pictures near old things and then leave before dark. He said all this openly. He didn't respect the house enough to lie to it. The village elders tried to warn him. They didn't beg. They don't beg to their own. They just did that thing old men do where they speak gently, but their eyes go hard. Beta, one of them said, Jo Kamar Banhai, Usko Banhai Rendu. Keep the locked room locked. Raghavendra laughed like they told him a joke about the moon being made of roti. Room is room, he said. A lock is a lock. If my grandfather was afraid of air and shadow, that's his problem. I'm not living like that. That's how he talked. Like fear was a choice, like you could opt out of it by being educated. I met him because his manager, a man called Sharmaji who acted like he owned every conversation, came to our side of the district looking for labor. They didn't want village workers for this job. They wanted outsiders. Men who didn't have aunties whispering in their ears. Men who wouldn't refuse to climb near the peepal tree. Men like me. Sharmaji found my uncle at a tea stall and said the job was good money, good food, and easy work. Whenever someone says easy work, it means either it's not easy or it's cursed. We took a tempo there with tools, hammers, crowbars, sacks of cement, lime, a hand drill that barely worked. We reached in the afternoon when the heat sits on your shoulders like a hand. The road narrowed, then turned into packed dirt. Kids ran alongside the tempo screaming. Dogs barked. Then the HAVELI appeared, and the dogs shut up like someone had slapped them. Falcothi looked wrong in daylight. Not ruined enough to be abandoned. Not alive enough to be a home. Thick walls with cracked lime plaster. Wide verandas with pillars that still stood straight out of stubbornness. The iron gate groaned when Sharmaji pushed it open, and that groan went through my teeth. The courtyard was full of hard-packed earth, and in the middle, like a god that didn't ask permission, stood the peepal. Even before I heard any story, I felt it. That pressure behind your eyes like someone staring at you. The leaves weren't moving much, but there was a sound anyway, a dry whisper like paper rubbed together. The branch nearest the upstairs bedroom window hung low, close enough that if you leaned out you could touch it. There were old strings tied to the trunk, red and yellow, half-rotten prayer threads. Someone had hammered nails into it at some point, and they were rusted. The bark had scars, long grooves like something had been scraped off with a blade. In a shade near the trunk, the soil looked darker, damp when everything else was dry. I pointed at it and said, half joking, Yeto Pura Jungle High. Sharmaji didn't laugh. He just snapped, don't touch it. Don't stand under it. Work, eat, sleep. That's it. He said it like a rule he'd memorized, not like advice. That should have been my first sign. A man like Sharmaji doesn't respect anything except money. If he was careful around a tree, there was a reason. Raghavendra Singh met us on the veranda. He was younger than I expected, late 30s maybe. Clean-shaven, hair oiled, eyes sharp. He looked us up and down like we were sacks of cement too. "You're the team?" He asked Sharmaji, not us. Sharmaji nodded. "Yes, Saheb. Strong boys. From outside. No nonsense." Raghavendra's gaze flicked to the peepal and then away, fast, like he'd accidentally looked at something dirty. "Good. We start tomorrow. There's a lot to do. This place is rotting because people were afraid to fix it. Afraid." He spat the word out. He walked us through the house like a tour guide, showing off a museum. The inside was cool, but not the good kind of cool. It was the kind of cool you feel in a room where something has been shut for too long. It smelled like dust, old ghee, damp cloth, and faintly something metallic, like a coin held too long in your mouth. We passed rooms with heavy wooden doors. Some were open, empty except for broken furniture stacked like bones. Some were shut with simple latches. One door upstairs had an old padlock, thick and black, with newer chain wrapped around it. That door was different. The air near it felt thicker, like walking into humidity. That was the sealed bedroom, the one Ram Madhav Singh died in. Nobody said it out loud then. It sat in everyone's throat. Raghavendra noticed me looking. "That's the room," he said, almost proud. "The famous haunted room. My grandfather's sleeping chamber." Sharmaji gave a tight smile. "Saheb, perhaps later." Raghavendra cut him off with a little wave. "Later, yes. We'll open it when we need to. First, the roof repairs, the veranda, the temple expansion on the land edge. The village is building a bigger mandir. They want space. They'll get it. And we'll clear the old rubbish behind the Kothi." When he said old rubbish, I didn't know he meant graves. That first night, they set us up in a side room on the ground floor. Mats, thin blankets, a single fan that clicked like a nervous finger. We ate dal and roti cooked by an old servant woman who didn't look at our faces. She put the plates down and left like she was feeding dogs. I went out to pee in the courtyard before sleeping. The moon wasn't full yet, but it was bright. The people's leaves shone like wet coins. I stood near the veranda pillar, careful not to step closer than I had to, and that's when I heard it, a soft tapping. Not from inside the house, from above. Talp, talp, talp. I tilted my head back. The upstairs bedroom window was dark. The peepal branch brushed the sill. The tapping was steady, like fingernails on wood. I froze with my pants half open, feeling like an idiot. Then the tapping stopped. The leaves whispered louder for a second, then went still again. I told myself it was a branch shifting. Wood expands and contracts. Old houses make noise. I finished peeing and went back in, but my skin stayed prickled like I'd walked through spiderwebs. In the morning, before we started work, Sharmaji handed us a folded paper. "This is the procedure," he said. "You follow it. If you don't follow it, you leave. I don't care if you're hungry." One of the older laborers, Mukesh, snorted. "Procedure? We're breaking plaster, not flying airplane." Sharmaji's face tightened. "Read it." It was an incident report sheet, the kind they use in factories, but old and recopied. Someone had taped it at some point, because the corners were stained with glue. The handwriting was neat, almost obsessive. At the top, in Hindi and English, it said, "Operational notes, Fel Kothi upstairs." Under were 7 rules, numbered, bolded with a pen like someone wanted to punch them into your brain. Rule 1. Do not work alone on the first floor after sunset. If you need a tool, wait for morning. Rule 2. If you hear tapping from the upstairs bedroom window, do not answer. Do not look out. Keep moving. Rule 3. Never cut or break a branch that touches the sealed bedroom window. Not for clearance. Not for firewood. Rule 4. If you smell burnt ghee or hot iron inside a closed room, leave the door as it is and step back. Do not force it. Rule 5. Do not bring meat, alcohol, or gambling cards into the courtyard. Eat outside the gate if you must. Rule 6. Keep the upstairs bedroom window latched from inside at all times. A latched window is safer than a locked door. Rule 7. If an old woman asks for water on the veranda, give it in a steel lota and set it down. Do not hand it to her. Mukesh read it and laughed once sharp. "Old woman? Water? This is what movie?" Sharmaji didn't laugh. He tapped the paper with a finger. "These are not jokes. The last team," he stopped himself, swallowed. "The last team didn't finish. You want to finish and get paid, you follow it." We all looked at each other. Nobody wanted to be the man who said no to money. So we folded the paper back and stuck it on the wall near the staircase with a bit of tape. It sat there like a warning label on a poison bottle. I remember thinking Rule 6 was stupid. Keep a window latched to be safe? Safe from what, monkeys? Rule 7 made my stomach twist. Not because I believed in ghosts. Because I didn't like the idea that someone had written that rule like it happened. Work started like any other job. You sweat, you curse, you carry bricks, you scrape plaster. The house fought us at every step. Nails bent. Hinges shrieked. The drill bit snapped twice. We kept finding dead bats in the roof space, their little bodies dried and stiff. A snake fell out of beam, and Mukesh almost jumped through the window. Raghavendra hovered sometimes, hand behind his back, giving instructions like he knew what cement ratio we should use. He'd argue about everything. "This wall should come down," he said once, pointing at an old partition. Sharmaji shook his head. "Saheb, it's load-bearing. We need beam support." Raghavendra's smile tightened. "Then support it. I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you. Don't be like these villagers, afraid of a crack." Sharmaji's jaw worked. He wanted to say something, but he swallowed it. Money has its own religion. The villagers watched from outside the gate at first. Men leaning on bicycles, women with their dupattas pulled over their heads like they were at a funeral. Kids stopped playing near the house. They'd come close, then back away, eyes wide like the Kothi might bite. Around the 3rd day, an old man came to the gate and called for Sharmaji. His voice was dry, tired. Sharmaji went out. I stayed near enough to hear, because I'm not proud and I'm nosy. The old man said, "Mandarka kam chau rahai, purane kabar hata nehain." The temple work is going on. Old graves have to be moved. Sharmaji frowned. "Why are you telling me? Talk to Saheb." The old man's eyes flicked toward the upstairs window. "Sahib ko bataado, yo eko kadarvoi, mota sukhmani ki usko mat hidna." Tell him, the one grave. Mata Sukhmani's, don't touch it. Sharmaji scoffed. "It's bones. Soil. Don't waste my time." The old man's mouth twitched like he wanted to spit. "On. Bones. Soil. Or Joe Bacha high." He stopped, looked straight at me like he knew I was listening. "Mayman. Guests." He walked away. That night, I asked the servant woman quietly while she served food. Mata Sukmani Kaun Hai? She didn't answer at first. Her hands shook a little as she poured down. Then she said, barely moving her lips, Diane, which I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was too easy, too simple a label for something that clearly had weight in this place. Story high, I said, like I was reminding myself. She looked up at me for the first time. Her eyes were watery but sharp. Story se hi John Bhakti hi, she said. Story ko mazak mat samjo. Stories save your life. Don't take them lightly. Then she walked away again like she'd said too much. That's how it began. Not with a ghost jumping out, not with blood. With a paper of rules on a wall and a tree that wouldn't let you forget it was there. The village knew the story like they knew the taste of their own water. In the late 1600s, they said, an old woman named Mata Sukmani lived on the outskirts. Widow, childless, surviving on herbs, and whatever people gave out of pity or fear. When livestock recovered, whispers followed her. When a child survived fever, whispers followed her. And when crops failed or someone died suddenly, the whispers became knives. On full moon nights, people claimed they saw her sitting inside the peepal tree near the Haveli, murmuring, cutting bits of bark with a rusted sickle. The then landlord, Rao Madhav Singh, swore he saw her climb the tree outside his bedroom window more than once. He testified like he was in court, like his words could nail reality down. He said she stared straight into his room as if she knew he was watching. The panchayat declared her a Diane. They tied her to a neem pole and beat her before handing her over to the authorities. She didn't beg. She didn't cry. When the noose tightened, she screamed one sentence. Mayman Anj is Garmain. There will be guests in this house. Rao Madhav Singh died that very night. Dawn found him stiff on his bed, skin blackened like charcoal. No wounds, no poison, the window wide open. Peepal branches brushing the sill like fingers. They sealed the room for decades. Then 50 years later, Raghavendra Singh reopened everything because he was tired of being told no by dead people. Hearing it laid out like that, you'd think the whole village would have burned the house down and moved. But villages don't move. They learn how to live around the thing that scares them. They build routines around it. That's what those rules were. Routines around terror. By the end of the first week, strange things started happening that weren't dramatic enough to be proof, but were wrong enough to make your stomach clench. The curtains in the upstairs hallway moved without wind. Not a flutter, a slow pull like invisible hands. The oil lamp in the puja corner downstairs would smoke, and the smoke would curl sideways against the air. Nails we hammered into the wall near the staircase would loosen overnight and fall like someone didn't want anything fixed there. The same spot on the wall stayed damp no matter how much lime we slapped on it. Mukesh kept saying it was old building issues. Moisture, he'd grunt. Termites. Stop acting like children. Then Mukesh started sleeping with his face turned to the wall like he didn't want to see the room. One afternoon, I was carrying a bucket of water up the stairs when I heard a voice. Not loud, not echoing, just a whisper like someone standing behind my shoulder. Pani, water. I stopped dead. My hand tightened on the bucket handle until it bit my skin. I turned slowly. Nobody. The hallway was empty. The old padlocked bedroom door sat at the end like a closed mouth. The air smelled faintly of ghee, like someone frying something in a closed room. Warm and sweet and sickly. Then it shifted, and there was that metallic, hot, iron smell under it. Rule for punch my memory. If you smell burnt ghee or hot iron inside a closed room, leave the door as it is and step back. Do not force it. I stepped back. I didn't know why. I didn't want to obey a stupid paper. But my feet moved like my body didn't trust my brain. The smell faded. The hallway cooled. I carried the bucket down with my heart hammering like I'd run. That evening, I told Mukesh. He rolled his eyes. You're imagining. You want to go home, go. Don't scare others. Fuck you, I said, because fear makes you angry when you don't have another outlet. I'm not scaring anyone. I'm telling you what I heard. Makesh's eyes narrowed. You heard a woman? In this house? You don't even have a wife? You're hearing women now. We almost fought. Hands raised, shoulders square, that hot, stupid male thing. Sharmaji came in yelling and slapped Makesh once, hard, like he was disciplining a child. Enough, Sharmaji snapped. If you fight, Saheb will throw you out and I'll lose my commission. Keep your mouth shut and work. That's what mattered to him. Not the voice, not the smell. The commission. The next day, the temple expansion work started on the land edge. The villagers came with spades. They were clearing an area that had old graves, unmarked, half-sunk, the kind nobody maintains because the dead have no votes. They've been told to move them for the Mandar's new boundary wall. I wasn't assigned there. I stayed on the Kothi. But I could see from the veranda, men digging, women watching from a distance, someone chanting under their breath like they were trying to drown out the sound of metal hitting soil. Then I saw something that made my throat go dry. The moment the spade hit a certain spot, the peepal tree's leaves shivered. Not wind, a shiver that moved through the branches like a body reacting. I stared at it until my eyes hurt. The leaves stilled. A few minutes later, a shout went up from the dig site. People gathered. I saw heads bending, hands waving. Raghavendra Singh walked over, irritated, like he'd been interrupted. I watched him from far away. He stood with his hands on his hips. He said something sharp. The workers pointed down. Then Raghavendra laughed. That laugh carried across the courtyard, and I hated it. It sounded like a man laughing at a funeral. When he came back, Sharmaji followed like a shadow. I heard Sharmaji hiss, "Sahib, maybe we leave it." Raghavendra's smile was wide. "Empty," he said. "Do you understand? Empty. The great Mata Sukhmani's grave is empty. Not bones, not ash. Nothing." He said it like he'd won an argument. Like the ground itself had admitted defeat. Sharmaji's face had lost some color. Empty means someone removed it. Raghavendra shrugged. Or it was never there. Or it's all bullshit. Either way, the Mandar gets built. He turned to me and Makesh like we were audience. You see? Superstition is just laziness dressed up as tradition. Mukesh forced a laugh. I didn't. I couldn't stop looking at the peepow, because in that moment the branch nearest the upstairs window moved slightly, like a finger curling. That night, for the first time, I heard Raghavendra argue with someone in the upstairs hallway. His voice was clear, irritated. "No, I'm not doing this. Stop it." Then quieter, like he'd stepped closer to a door. "Who's there?" Silence. Then his voice again, harsher. "Sharmaji, if this is some stupid prank to scare me, I swear to God." Footsteps. Sharmaji's voice, nervous. "Sahib, what happened?" Raghavendra snapped. Someone was in the hallway. Someone whispered. Sharmaji said, "Sahib, hall is empty. All boys sleeping downstairs." Raghavendra's voice lowered. "Don't patronize me." I heard a woman. A pause. Sharmaji said carefully, "Sahib, maybe you should sleep in the guest room downstairs for some days. This house, old house, makes noise." Raghavendra's laugh came, but it was thinner than before. "I'm not sleeping downstairs like some frightened child. Tell your boys to stop wandering." His footsteps went back toward his room. The door shut. A latch clicked. Rule 6. Keep the upstairs bedroom window latched from inside at all times. A latched window is safer than a locked door. I didn't know then that Rule 6 was a trap dressed as comfort. Days passed like that. Work, heat, arguments, small wrong things. Raghavendra started looking tired. His eyes had dark circles like bruises. He'd snap at Sharmaji over nothing. He accused us of moving things. Once he grabbed Mukesh by the collar and shoved him against a wall because a brass key had gone missing. "I don't like thieves," he hissed, face close. Mukesh's hands went up. "Sahib, I didn't take." Raghavendra shook him. "Don't lie. This is my house. I know where I keep my things." Sharmaji pulled Raghavendra back, whispering urgently, "Sahib, calm down. They're simple workers." Raghavendra's jaw worked. He let Mukesh go like he was disgusted by touching him. Mukesh stood there breathing hard, eyes wet with rage and humiliation. After Raghavendra left, Mukesh spat on the floor. "He thinks we're dogs," he said. "He's paying us," I said, but it sounded weak. Mukesh glared at me. "You still don't get it. He's not scared of ghosts. He's scared of losing control. That's why he's angry." Mukesh was right. Raghavendra didn't fear the unknown like villagers did. He feared being powerless in his own house. And the house was slowly teaching him he didn't own it. One evening, a retired schoolteacher came to the gate. Thin man, white hair, eyes that looked like they'd seen too much without blinking. He carried a cloth bag like it held something fragile. He asked for Raghavendra. Sharmaji tried to brush him off. The teacher's voice stayed polite but firm. "Mera naam Shyamal hai," he said. "Main yahan ka purane pandit ka pota hun. Mujhe sahib se milna hai. I am Shyamwal. I'm the grandson of the old pundit. I need to meet Sahib." Something in Sharmaji's face changed at the mention of the old pundit. He hesitated, then led the teacher inside. Raghavendra met him in the downstairs hall. I was carrying bricks past the doorway and slowed down because curiosity is stronger than caution. The teacher bowed his head slightly. "Babu Sahib," he said, "Main apko darain nahi aya. Main apko batan aya hun." "I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you." Raghavendra's smile was stiff. "If this is about the tree and the old stories, save it. I'm not interested." The teacher opened his cloth bag and pulled out a bundle of papers wrapped in oilcloth. Old handwritten notes, yellowed, edges frayed. He held them like they were holy. "My dada wrote these," he said. "Asraat kabad, jap mata Suhmani ko pansi digai." After that night, when Mata Sukhmani was hanged, Raghavendra's eyes flicked, the smallest sign of attention. And the teacher unwrapped the notes and pointed to a line that had been underlined again and again, hard enough to tear the paper. "Is Vriksh ko kat do? Cut this tree down." Raghavendra snorted. "So your grandfather wanted to cut a tree. That's it. That's your big warning." The teacher's voice stayed calm, but his hands trembled slightly as he held the paper. "Wo surf tree nai hai, Sahib," he said. "Wo da wada hai." "It's not just a tree. It's a door." Raghavendra's laugh came again, loud this time. "A door to what? Hell? Guests? Come on." The teacher's eyes sharpened. "Aapne kab hi sach hai, Sahib, kirao modav ki maut kaise hoi? Kala kaise hua? Jaise jal gaya ho, bina aagga." Have you ever thought how Rao Madhav died? How he turned black, like he burned, without fire? Raghavendra's face tightened. People die in strange ways. Heart attack, poison, who knows? The teacher shook his head once. "Apko pata kolega," he said softly. "You will know." Raghavendra's smile returned, crueler. He pointed at a copy of the Ramcharitmanas kept on a shelf in the hall, dusty but respected enough to be there. "Fine," he said. "Let's do this village style." He grabbed the book, flipped it open randomly, eyes scanning for the first line like he was pulling a fortune from a hat. Then he read out loud, his voice mocking. "Pratahkalta muiche na paoge. By morning, you will not find me." For a second, the air in the hall felt like it dropped. Even the fan seemed to slow. The teacher's face went pale, not dramatically, just like the blood stepped back from his skin. Sharmaji swallowed hard. Mukesh, who'd been pretending not to listen, shifted his weight like he wanted to run. Raghavendra looked at us, pleased with himself. "There," he said, "a prophecy. Are you all satisfied?" The teacher's voice was almost a whisper. "Sahib," Raghavendra cut him off. "No, enough. I'm done with this circus. You want to help? Tell the villagers to stop staring at my gate like I'm a criminal. Otherwise, take your papers and go." The teacher stared at him for a long moment, eyes glossy. Then he carefully wrapped the notes back up like he was tucking a body into cloth. "As you wish," he said. "Main apna fars kar chuka. I've done my duty." He left, and as he walked out through the gate, I swear to you, the peepal leaves shivered again like the house had breathed in. That night, the heat broke. A hot wind blew through the courtyard, carrying dust. The sky was cloudy, moon hidden. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like the whole place was holding its breath. We finished dinner. Mukesh muttered, "I don't like this," and Sharmaji snapped at him to shut up. Everyone laid down on their mats. The fan clicked. Someone coughed. A rat scratched inside a wall. Normal sounds. Trying to pretend we were normal men in a normal house. I didn't sleep. My body lay flat, but my mind kept replaying that line. By morning, you will not find me. Around midnight, I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, bare feet on old stone. Then a faint tapping, steady, from the upstairs bedroom window. Top, top, top. Rule 2 crawled into my mind. If you hear tapping from the upstairs bedroom window, do not answer. Do not look out. Keep moving. I sat up, heart pounding. Mukesh sat up too, eyes wide in the dim. We looked at each other like children hearing something outside a tent. Then I heard Raghavendra's voice from upstairs, sharp and angry. Who was there? Silence. Then the tapping again, closer, faster. Top, top, top. Raghavendra's voice rose. Sharmaji, if this is you. A sudden sound, heavy like something dropped onto a wooden floor. Not a crash of furniture, a thud with weight. The kind of sound your body understands before your brain does. Then nothing. No scream, no straggle, no footsteps running. Just the wind outside, pushing dust through the courtyard, and somewhere above, the soft whisper of leaves. Sharmaji jolted awake, swearing. What the hell? He scrambled up, grabbed a torch, and ran toward the stairs. Mukesh and I followed, because fear makes you stupid and loyal at the same time. We climbed fast, torch beam shaking on the walls. The upstairs hallway was colder than it should have been. The air smelled faintly of burnt ghee and hot iron, like someone had opened an invisible tandoor. Sharmaji reached the sealed bedroom door, Raghavendra's grandfather's room. The padlock and chain were still there, but the door next to it, the room Raghavendra had been using, was slightly open. Sharmaji pushed it. Sahib. The door swung wider with a soft creak, like it was happy to comply. The torch beam fell on the bed. Raghavendra's Singh lay on top of it, stiff, twisted slightly, as if he'd tried to sit up and then forgotten how. His skin was blackened. Not bruised, not dirty. Black like charcoal, like he'd been cooked from the inside out. His mouth was open, teeth showing. His eyes stared at the ceiling, but didn't see it. The smell hit us full then. Burnt flesh, old oil, something sour under it. Mukesh gagged. Sharmaji made a sound like a strangled sob. The window was wide open. Cold air poured in. The curtain moved, not in wind, but like it was being pulled aside. And there, brushing the sill, was the peepal branch, wet leaves tapping softly against the wood. Top, 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 like a polite knock, like someone saying, I'm here. The first stupid thing I did was step closer, like my eyes could find a rational shape in what I was seeing. Like if I got close enough, I'd find a wire, a poison bottle, a snake bite, something that made sense. Raghavendra didn't look like a normal dead body. I've seen dead men before. You grow up around roads and trains. You see what you're not supposed to see. This was different. His skin wasn't dark. It was blackened the way food blackens when it burns and keeps burning after you take it off the flame. His fingers were curled like claws. His lips had cracked. The bedsheet under him had a faint scorch smell, but no burn marks. Like heat had passed through him and left the cloth alone. Sharmaji kept whispering, Sab sab, like the word itself could reverse time. Mukesh started to back away, shaking his head fast, muttering no, 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 like he was arguing with God. I looked at the open window, and my throat tightened so hard it hurt. The branch was right there, leaves wet, glossy, tapping the sill like it had a pulse. And I remembered the sheet of rules taped near the staircase downstairs, the ink rubbed by fingers like a cheap talisman. Rule 2. If you hear tapping from the upstairs bedroom window, do not answer. Do not look out. Keep moving. Rule 3. Never cut or break a branch that touches the sealed bedroom window. Rule 6. Keep the upstairs bedroom window latched from inside at all times. A latched window is safer than a locked door. All of it suddenly felt less like superstition and more like a safety manual in a factory that keeps killing people. Sharmaji stepped toward the window as if to slam it shut. I grabbed his wrist without thinking. "Don't," I said. He jerked, angry and terrified. "What? You want it open? Are you mad?" "I don't know," I said, and my voice sounded like someone else's. "Just don't touch it." Mukesh barked a laugh that had no humor. "Don't touch the window? His boss is dead and you're worried about a window?" Sharmaji yanked his arm free. He leaned closer, eyes narrowed, and for a second I thought he was going to hit me. Then his gaze flicked to the branch, to the wet leaves tapping, and he hesitated. His hand hovered in the air and then dropped. "Close the door," he whispered. I pulled the bedroom door shut slowly. It felt like closing a mouth after it's spoken something you can't take back. The latch clicked. In the hallway, the smell of burnt ghee and hot iron hung stubbornly in the air. We stood there, 3 grown men listening. No footsteps, no laughter, no dramatic haunting sound. Just that soft tap-tap at the window through the wood and the whisper of leaves. Sharmaji finally snapped out of it enough to act like a manager again. "Downstairs," he hissed. "Now!" We went down. The other men were awake, sitting up, eyes wide, whispering questions. Someone said, "What happened?" Someone else said, "Did he fall?" Another said, "Maybe heart attack." Sharmaji raised his voice, sharp. "Shut up. No shouting. Nobody goes upstairs." Mukesh spat on the floor again, not in disrespect to the dead man, but in rage at the situation. "We should call police," he said. "Doctor. Someone." Sharmaji's eyes flashed. "Police will seal the house. They'll ask questions. Then what? You think you get paid? You think I'll get paid? We'll all get stuck here with a dead body and no money." That argument was the first real fight of the night. Money versus survival. It always looks ugly when it's exposed like that. Mukesh stepped forward, chest out. "Fuck your commission. A man is dead." Sharmaji's mouth twisted. A man is dead because he was an idiot who laughed at everyone. If police come, you all will be suspects. Outsiders in a zamindar house. You want that? Mukesh's fists clenched. He was thinking of handcuffs, of being beaten in a thana, of being blamed because you're easy to blame. I cut in, voice low. "We can't leave him there. Someone will notice. The village will notice." As if on cue, a knock came from the front gate downstairs. Hard, impatient. Everybody froze. Sharmaji's eyes darted like a trapped rat's. Another knock, then a man's voice outside, loud enough to carry. "Gauta kolo? Kya ho raha hai?" "Open the gate." "What's happening?" Sharmaji hissed at us. "Don't say anything. Let me handle it." He went to the veranda, pulled the door open, stepped out. I followed to the hall entrance because I could not. The courtyard looked pale in the weak lantern light. The peepal stood in the middle like a shadow made solid. Its leaves barely moved, but the branch nearest the upstairs window was still angled like it was listening too. Sharmaji opened the gate halfway. 2 village men stood there, one with a lati in his hand like it was part of his body. Behind them were more shapes, curious, suspicious, drawn by the sound they'd heard or the silence that followed it. "What happened?" the man with the lati demanded. Sharmaji forced a laugh, so fake it made my skin crawl. Nothing. Sahib slipped. Minor injury. He is sleeping." The villagers' eyes narrowed. "Sleeping? Then why shouting? Why lights?" Sharmaji's smile twitched. "Work stress. You know, big renovation." The man leaned closer, sniffed like an animal. His face changed. "Jailahwagi," he muttered. "Burnt ghee." His gaze lifted toward the upstairs window. The branch tapped the sill again, soft as a heartbeat. "Top! Top!" The villager's lips pressed together. "Call," he said. "Open." Sharmaji's smile died. "What?" "Call gate pura." The villager said, voice flat. "Hum dekna chat." "Open the gate fully." We want to see. Sharmaji's spine stiffened. This is private property. The Lottie man stepped forward. Private nahi. Ye hamara gaon hai. Agar sahib ko kuch hua, humko pata hona chahiye. Not private. This is our village. If something happened to him, we should know. More villagers drifted closer, silent, faces pale in lantern light. I saw the old man from before, the one who'd warned about Mata Sukhmani's grave. His eyes were fixed on the peephole, like he was watching for a twitch. Sharmaji glanced back at us, panicked. Mukesh muttered, "Tell them," like he wanted to throw the truth like a bomb and watch it explode. I didn't want the villagers inside, not because I was protecting Sharmaji, because I had this ugly sense that the house wanted more people. Guests, Mayman, and now the guest list was gathering at the gate. Sharmaji tried again, voice firm. "Saheb is resting. If you come inside and make noise, you will disturb him." The old man spoke finally, voice quiet but cutting through the murmurs. "Sahib ko disturbance se zyada bechana hai. He needs protection more than quiet." Sharmaji's face drained. "What are you saying?" The old man didn't answer Sharmaji. He looked straight at me. "Beta," he said softly, "Yupper ka kamra kolahai kia?" "Son, is the upstairs room open?" My mouth went dry. Lying felt pointless, but truth felt like handing them a knife. Mukesh stepped up behind Sharmaji and barked, "He's dead." Just like that. No drama, no sofnis. Dead. The courtyard went still. Then a wave of noise, whispers turning into a dull roar. "Margaya, Kais, Kabupaten, Kala Ogaya Kya. Firse." The old man's eyes closed for a second. When he opened them, they looked older. "Mayman A.A. Gay," he said, barely audible. "The guests have come." Sharmaji spun on Mukesh, furious. "You idiot." Mukesh shoved him back. "Fuck you. Enough lies." The villagers pushed the gate open wider. Sharmaji tried to block them and got shoved aside. He stumbled, almost fell. That's when I saw something on the ground near the peephole. Wet footprints. Bare feet. Small. Leading from the courtyard toward the veranda steps. My stomach dropped. It hadn't rained. The courtyard soil was dry. The villagers surged into the hall. They demanded to see. Sharmaji protested, but his voice was swallowed. They rushed upstairs like they'd been waiting their whole lives to break that boundary. I went too. Not because I wanted to, because if I stayed behind alone, I swear I felt like the house would notice. We reached the bedroom. Sharmaji tried to speak first, tried to control the narrative. "Saheb." Then they saw Raghavendra on the bed. You can't hide a blackened corpse from people who've been telling the same story for generations. The room filled with sharp, panicked breaths. A woman screamed. Someone started chanting under their breath. Another man vomited onto the floor and then wiped his mouth like he was ashamed. The Lottie man stepped toward the window, eyes wide. "Bankiro," he hissed. "Close it." The branch tapped again, almost playful. "Talp, talp." The man moved like he couldn't help himself. He grabbed the curtain and yanked it aside to reach the window latch. The moment his fingers touched the latch, he jerked back like he'd been burned. "Airy," he started. His face twisted. His eyes watered. He staggered, clutching his palm. "What happened?" someone demanded. He held his hand up. His palm looked normal. No burn mark, but he was shaking like he'd touched a live wire. "Garam," he whispered. "Bohat, Garam." "Hot. Very hot." Rule 4 flashed again in my head. "Burnt ghee and hot iron. Leave it. Step back." The old man pushed through the crowd and stopped just inside the doorway. He didn't go closer. He stared at the open window and the branch like it was a gun pointed at his family. "Kota Bankiro," he said. "Close the room." Someone protested, "Body." The old man snapped, voice suddenly loud and furious. "Body bot mine. Peli Darwaza band." The body later. First close the door. Two men dragged the bedroom door shut. The latch clicked. The air in the hallway felt less thick immediately, like a pressure valve had been turned. Then came the next argument. Police, cremation, report, cover up. The village split into panic and pragmatism. Sharmaji wanted police because it would take responsibility off him. Mukesh wanted police because he didn't want to be blamed. The old men didn't want police because police bring paperwork and delays, and the house feeds on delays. Someone said the landlord's family would arrive and cause chaos. Someone else said, keep it quiet, burn him quickly, end it. But the loudest demand from the old man and those like him was simple. Bid Gadu. Cut the tree. Sharmaji blinked. What? The old man's voice was flat. Abhi. Izi. Isi Peli Suraj Nikal. Now. Today. Before sunrise. Sharmaji shook his head, almost laughing. You want to cut a peepal at night? Who will do that? It's illegal. It's sacred. A younger villager snapped back. Sacred? You call this sacred? He pointed toward the upstairs door like it was leaking poison. 2 zamindars dead in that room. How many more? Sharmaji tried to argue about permissions, about labor, about the Mandir committee. The villagers didn't care. They weren't asking. They were announcing. They dragged woodcutters from their beds. Actual men with axes who make their living cutting things. Those men showed up in the courtyard pale and furious, rubbing sleep from their eyes. One of them, an old woodcutter with forearms like tree trunks, took one look at the peepal and stopped. Nahi, he said immediately. No, the younger villagers said, Pays danga. We'll pay. The woodcutter spat. Paises sekhan nayati. Yikbid katne sekunikalta hai. You don't buy life with money. From this tree, something comes out. Sharmaji snapped, stop this drama. We need to handle body first. The Ladi man rounded on him. Sahib dead hai Sharma. Up te uzahep nai. Up gawan ka faisla hoga. The Sahib is dead, Sharma. Now you're not Sahib. Now the village decides. They argued in the courtyard while the peepal stood silent, leaves whispering. The sky was still dark, but the air had shifted. That pre-dawn chill that makes every sound sharper. The upstairs window kept tapping now and then, like the house was impatient. Talp! Talp! Rule 2 again. Don't answer. Don't look out. Nobody answered. Nobody dared. But people kept glancing upward like they expected a face. In the middle of that chaos, something happened that I didn't even understand until later. The servant woman came out onto the veranda, holding a steel lota of water. Her hand shook so hard the water trembled inside. She walked to the edge of the courtyard, not onto the peepal, but close enough, and set the lota down on the ground. As she stepped back and bowed her head like she was offering it to a god she hated. Rule 7. If an old woman asks for water on the veranda, give it in a steel lota and set it down. Do not hand it to her. Nobody had asked out loud, but the servant woman did it anyway. The lota sat there, shining faintly in lantern light. The water inside looked too dark, like it wasn't reflecting the lantern, like it was swallowing it. A younger villager scoffed, nervous. What is this drama, Chachi? The old man hissed, Chup. Shut up. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the peepal leaves shivered. A tiny ripple moved across the water in the lota, as if a finger had dipped into it. No one touched it. The ripple happened anyway. The servant woman backed up another step, her lips moving silently. I wanted to run. I wanted to grab my bag and vanish down the road and never look back. But my feet stayed, because everyone else was staying too. Because fear has this sick gravity in crowds. It keeps you there to watch. At last, the woodcutter spoke again, voice low. Suba, dupe mine. Morning, in daylight. The Ladi man shook his head. Zuba takte hu yayigi. By morning it'll be too late. The old man's eyes flicked upward. Talp! Talp! The branch brushed the sill again, wet leaves gleaming like they'd been dipped in oil. Abhi, the old man said. Abhi. Now. They argued until the sky lightened just a little, a dirty gray at the horizon. That's when a sound came from inside the house, upstairs. A soft dragging, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. People froze, heads tilted. The dragging stopped. Then came a faint thump, like a body shifting. The villagers surged toward the stairs again, but the old man threw his arm out, blocking them. Koi nai jaega yupper, he snapped. No one goes upstairs. A younger man shouted. Furkia? Yeah, Sabsun Kachup Baith J. So what? We sit quiet hearing this? The old man's face twisted with anger that had been simmering for years. Shubaitna ito umkarta aya. Uppate kat. We've been sitting quiet all this time. Now cut the tree. That's what finally pushed the woodcutters. Not money. Not threats. The sound from upstairs that reminded them this wasn't a story on someone's tongue. It was a thing in the house. They pulled the people-cutting tools close. Axes, a saw, ropes. Someone brought kerosene, because villagers always bring kerosene like it's the answer to everything. The woodcutter lifted his axe and hesitated, like he was waiting for the tree to react. Nothing. Then he swung. The axe bit into the bark with a wet crack, like cutting into something that isn't fully wood. Sap oozed out, thick and dark. Not the pale sap you expect. It looked like old blood mixed with oil. The woodcutter cursed under his breath and swung again. The tree didn't sway. It didn't creak like a normal tree. It absorbed the blows like it had weight beyond itself. The leaves whispered louder, almost like a laugh. And then, from upstairs, the tapping became frantic. Top, 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 top. Fast, angry, like someone pounding on glass from the outside. The villagers flinched and looked up. The upstairs bedroom window curtain moved, pulled aside, and then dropped. I didn't see a face. I swear I didn't. But I felt watched so hard my eyes watered. The old man shouted, Onk Mat Eutheo. Don't lift your eyes. Rule 2 without ink. Don't answer. Don't look out. Keep moving. The woodcutters kept swinging. Chips flew. Sabdripat. The smell of burnt ghee hit the air suddenly, thick and sweet, like someone had poured it onto a hot pan. One of the younger workers gagged. What the fuck is that smell? No one answered him because nobody wanted to give it a name. The axe strokes kept landing. The trunk began to open slightly, a crack forming along one side, as if the tree was splitting under pressure. The rope team pulled, trying to control the fall. Then Mukesh did the second stupid thing of the night. He walked right up to the tree and grabbed a low branch that hung near his head. Not the branch touching the window, but another one. He yanked it down hard and snapped a smaller twig off with a crack. See? He shouted, eyes wild. It's a fucking tree. Wood. Nothing more. Sharmaji shouted, Mukesh, stop. Too late. The twig broke. Leaves fluttered down like a rain of coins. For half a second, the whole courtyard went quiet. Even the tapping upstairs paused. Then the peepal shuddered. Not swayed. Shuddered. Like a spine flexing. Mukesh's face changed. He looked down at his hand holding the twig. His fingers tightened like they'd cramped. He tried to let go and couldn't. The twig stuck to his palm as if glued. Mukesh's eyes widened. What the? A thin line of dark sap seeped from between his fingers. Then another. It crawled up his wrist like it was alive. Mukesh screamed, not a tough man's shout, but a raw animal sound. He jerked his hand, trying to fling the twig away. It ripped free with a wet tear, and he stumbled back. His palm was blackened, not burnt like a fire burn, blackened like Raghavendra's skin. Everyone recoiled. Mukesh stared at his hand, shaking. No, his voice broke. It's just sap. It's just. Sharmaji grabbed his wrist and yanked his hand closer to the lantern. The skin on Mukesh's palm looked dried, cracked, dark as coal. The smell of hot iron rose from it, faint but there. Rule 4 again, like a siren. Mukesh started sobbing, furious and terrified. Get it off, he begged. Get it off. The old man spat. Absamja? Bidsim matgel. Now you understand? Don't play with the tree. Mukesh tried to push away, but Sharmaji held him tight like a man drowning grabs a rope. Stop moving, Sharmaji hissed, eyes frantic. Stop. Mukesh wrenched free and stumbled backward toward the veranda steps, clutching his hand to his chest. His eyes kept darting upward toward the window like he expected something to come out. And then the tree cracked open wider. Not at the cut, along the hollow core. A seam split, and something inside shifted like a nest waking up. The woodcutter shouted, "Ruko, stop!" But momentum doesn't stop because someone says so. The men pulling the rope yanked, the axe swung again, and the trunk split. Something fell out of the hollow. At first my brain refused it. It was gray and hairy, and it hit the ground with a wet slap, like a sack of meat thrown from a height. It twitched, and when it twitched, I saw legs. Too many. A tangle. Then it unfolded. It was the size of a large cat, but not shaped like one. It had a low body like a spider and hair like mold. Its legs were jointed wrong, bending where they shouldn't. Its head, if you could call a head, was more like a blunt face with a mouth that opened sideways. It shrieked. That sound wasn't animal. It wasn't bird. It was like a baby crying through a metal pipe, high and vibrating. It shot straight into my bones. People screamed and stumbled back. The creature scuttled, fast as a thrown shadow, and slammed into a man's foot. The man shrieked and kicked. The creature didn't fly off. It clung. Then another thing dropped out. Then another. Then another. Gray, hairy, too many legs, spilling like rot from a wound. The courtyard exploded into panic. Men swung laddis wildly. Someone shouted prayers. Someone shouted abuse. Someone shouted, "Run," and running started, but there was nowhere to run because fear makes crowds block their own exits. The first woodcutter got knocked down, trying to back away. A creature leapt onto his chest, legs wrapping like ropes. He screamed as if his breath had been stolen. His hands clawed at it, and his fingers went black where they touched it. A man with a laddie smashed the creature with a crack, hard enough to splatter gray pulp. The man's laddie bounced, and he kept hitting like he was trying to beat the nightmare into a story again. The creature burst, and the smell that came out was sweet and rotten at once, like spoiled jaggery and blood. The man gagged and still kept hitting. Another creature scuttled up the pea-pal trunk and disappeared back into the split hollow. Then 3 more followed it, like they were regrouping. Mukesh stumbled off the veranda steps, clutching his blackened hand, eyes huge. He saw the creatures, and his face went blank like his mind snapped. "Guests," he whispered, almost laughing. "Mayman." Then a creature launched at him. It didn't leap like a cat. It flung itself like a wet rag thrown hard. It hit his shoulder and wrapped around his neck, legs digging. Mukesh screamed, hands flailing. His good hand grabbed it, and the skin blackened where he touched it. He tried to rip it off anyway, because you don't politely die. Sharmaji ran toward him, yelling Mukesh's name like that mattered now. Sharmaji grabbed the creature and pulled. The creature shrieked in his face. Sharmaji's eyes went wide, and his mouth opened like he'd inhaled fire. His fingers tightened, and I saw his knuckles darken instantly, as if ink was spreading under the skin. He let go and stumbled back, gagging. Mukesh fell to his knees. The creature loosened and skittered off, not because it was done, but because something else distracted it. The kerosene can tipped. Some idiot had been holding it, too scared to use it, and in the chaos it slipped. Kerosene poured onto the ground in a spreading pool. The lantern near the veranda wobbled as someone bumped it. I saw it in slow motion. The flame tipped. The lantern fell. Glass shattered. Fire kissed kerosene. The courtyard erupted into orange. Flames crawled across the ground fast, hungry, and the heat hit my face like a slap. People screamed and jumped back, tripping over each other. A creature caught in the fire shrieked and writhed, legs curling, hair igniting like dry grass. The smell turned instantly worse. Burnt hair, burnt flesh, burnt ghee, hot iron all tangled together. The tree trunk itself caught where kerosene splashed its base. Flames licked upward, and the hollow crack glowed like a mouth lit from inside. That should have been good. Fire kills things. Fire cleans. But the tree didn't burn like a normal tree. It smoked black. Thick, oily smoke that rolled out and clung low, making everyone cough. The hollow glowed, and inside it something moved. More bodies, more legs, like a nest panicking. and then they poured out. Not one or two. A surge. Creatures spilled from the hollow in a wave, shrieking as they hit the air and fire. Some ignited and still ran, tiny burning nightmares scuttling across the courtyard, setting cloth and hair on fire as they passed. People swung lattes, crushing them, but every hit splattered gray pulp, and that pulp smoked when it touched flame, leaving dark smears on the ground like oil. A man caught fire when a burning creature hit his doty. He screamed and rolled, and the flames climbed anyway. Two men beat him with cloth, trying to smother it, and one of those men got a creature on his arm. His arm blackened fast. He screamed louder than the burning man, because maybe burning is understandable, but turning black from a touch isn't. Someone shouted, "Pani! Pani Lao! Water! Bring water!" My eyes flashed to the steel lota the servant woman had placed earlier. It still sat near the courtyard edge, untouched, water inside too dark. A boy ran toward it, desperate. He grabbed it with both hands like it was salvation. The moment he lifted it, the water inside rippled violently. Something moved in it, not a reflection. A ripple like something breathing under the surface. The boy froze. His face twisted in confusion and fear. Then the lotus slipped from his hands like he'd been slapped. It hit the ground and rolled, spilling water that didn't look like normal water. It looked thicker in the lantern light. It spread in a thin sheet across the dirt, and then it sank into the ground too fast, like the earth drank it. The boy stared at his wet hands. His fingers were starting to darken at the tips. He screamed and ran. Rule 7 wasn't a kindness. It wasn't be respectful. It was don't make contact. I didn't have time to think longer because the fire climbed the tree and the smoke thickened. People were choking, stumbling, swinging blindly. The people's leaves, those stubborn shiny leaves, started to curl at the edges and blacken. The branches cracked. The tapping at the upstairs window stopped entirely, like whatever had been knocking was satisfied. In the chaos, I saw the paper of rules still taped near the staircase wall through the open doorway, fluttering slightly from people running past. The ink looked darker, almost fresh. I grabbed it without thinking. I ripped it off the wall and shoved it into my pocket like it was a weapon. Mukesh was on the ground near the veranda, coughing, clutching his hands, both palms now blackened. His face was wet with tears and sweat. Sharmaji stumbled nearby, eyes wide, fingers darkening too. He looked at me like he wanted to ask for help, but didn't know what to ask. Money couldn't fix this. A villager with a latte yelled, "Maro! Maro! Hit them! Hit them!" He swung at a creature and crushed it. Gray guts splattered onto his leg. He flinched but kept hitting because panic gives you strength. Then he looked down and saw the splatter, smoking slightly on his skin, and he screamed. That's when I realized the lattes weren't saving people. They were killing them too. Every hit sprayed this stuff, and this stuff did something to skin, to breath, to life. And the fire wasn't clean. The fire just spread the nightmare wider. Someone shouted from behind me, "Gate! Open the gate!" People surged toward the front gate, pushing, screaming. The gate stuck because the old iron had warped in heat and panic. Men shoved. Someone fell. Someone stepped on him. You could hear ribs crack like dry sticks. A creature scuttled along the gate bars like it was climbing a cage. It dropped onto a man's shoulder. He screamed and slammed himself into the wall, trying to crush it. It didn't fall. I grabbed a brick from the ground and smashed the creature. It burst, and the gray pulp sprayed my forearm. Hot, sticky. For a split second, terror froze my blood. I expected my arm to blacken instantly. It didn't. Not right away. It just burned like acid. I scrubbed at it with my sleeve hard enough to scrape skin. The pulp smeared, smoking faintly. I gagged. Then I noticed something. With a pulp touch cloth, the cloth blackened faster than where it touched skin, like it wanted warmth and fibers, like it was hungry for something specific. Rule 5 popped up in my mind and made me want to laugh hysterically. Do not bring meat, alcohol, or gambling cards into the courtyard. At the time, it sounded like some old man's moral lecture. But now, watching these things swarm toward warm bodies and cloth and anything that smelled alive, I understood Rule 5 wasn't about morality. It was about bait, meat smell, alcohol fumes, the carelessness of men gathered with cards, staying late, making noise, inviting attention. The old man screamed at the crowd, "Bahar! Bahar! Outside! Outside!" The gate finally gave with a groan, and people spilled out like water breaking through a dam. I got shoved, stumbled, caught myself. The smoke followed us. Behind, the courtyard glowed with fire and black smoke rolling upward. The peepow crackled, not like wood, but like something wet burning unwillingly. Outside the gate, villagers fell into the dirt road, coughing and sobbing. Some people ran down the lane screaming, not even looking where they went. Others stood frozen, staring back at Fel Kothi like it was a mouth still chewing. The old woodcutter sat on the ground, rocking slightly, his axe dropped beside him. His eyes were wide, reflecting firelight like a child's. Mukesh stumbled out, supported by two men. His hands were held away from his body like they were contaminated. His palms were black to the wrist now. The blackness crept like ink under his skin. Sharmaji came out too, coughing violently, his fingers dark. He kept wiping them on his trousers as if he could scrub the color off. Somebody shouted, "Pani lao." Water again, always the same human instinct. A woman ran with a bucket from a nearby house. She splashed water toward the gate area where burning creatures had scuttled out and died on the dirt. The water hissed and steamed. The steam smelled like hot iron. Then a thin shriek came from the courtyard again. Not from a creature, from upstairs. All heads snapped up. For a second, in the upstairs bedroom window, behind smoke, a shape moved. A silhouette like a woman. Hair loose, head tilted. It leaned toward the window. Someone screamed, "Mata!" The silhouette lifted a hand, slow, almost gentle, like she was waving. Then the smoke swallowed the window again. The old man grabbed the screaming villager by the collar and slapped him hard. "Na matlo, Edorth. Don't say her name." The villagers stared at him, shocked, humiliated, but the old man didn't care. "Nam sabulata, Isa. Nam seatein." Names invite. Names bring. I wanted to tell you I stayed calm. I didn't. My teeth were chattering. My hand shook. I kept touching my pocket where the rule paper was like it could anchor me. The fire raged for what felt like hours, but was probably less. Dawn started to smear the sky pale. The smoke thinned. The people's silhouette changed. Branches collapsed, cracking and dropping like bones. The trunks split wider and then sagged inward. The creatures stopped coming out. Either they'd burned or retreated deeper or done whatever they needed to do. The screaming died down into low crackles and sobs. People began to count the living. That's when the real horror of numbers hit. 2 men were dead, not blackened like Raghavendra, but beaten to death with lathis in the chaos. Crushed skulls, broken ribs. Another had burned badly and was moaning like a dying animal. 2 children had blackened fingers. One woman's forearm had dark patches like bruises that spread when you stare at them too long. Mukesh sat on the ground, staring at his hands. His breathing was shallow, fast. He kept whispering, "Just sap, just sap," like repeating it could make it true. Sharmaji crouched beside him, not touching him now, just watching his own darkening fingers with horror. "What do we do?" Sharmaji whispered to me, voice small. "What do we do now?" This was the same man who'd shouted at us for fighting and talked about commission. Now he sounded like a child asking for his mother. I didn't know what to say. I had no answers. I just kept thinking about Raghavendra's laugh and that line from the Ramcharitmanas like a joke, and how the joke had answered him. When the fire finally settled enough that the courtyard wasn't a furnace, the villagers went back in. Not because they were brave, because they had to, because bodies were inside, because the peepow was still there, half-burnt, and they needed to see what was left. I followed at a distance, throat raw from smoke. The courtyard looked like war. Ash everywhere, black smears on the dirt, bits of charred branch. The air stank. The peepal trunk was a blackened shell now, split wide open. The hollow core was exposed, glowing faintly with residual heat. The old man approached it slowly, eyes narrowed. Others stayed back. The woodcutter, shaking, used the butt of his axe to poke at the hollow edge like he expected it to bite. Nothing moved. A younger villager stepped closer, coughing. "Inside Dayco," he said, voice rough. "Look inside." The woodcutter shook his head. "To Dick. You look." The younger man swallowed and leaned in. I will never forget his face changing. Not to fear, to shock. "Bones," he whispered. The old man stepped in then, careful not to touch the edges. He squinted into the hollow. His lips moved silently, like prayer or counting. Then he said, voice flat, "Insan ki hadian." Human bones. Someone behind me made a sound like they'd been punched. The hollow was full of bones. Not one skeleton, not two. Piles. Arm bones, ribs, skull fragments, all blackened and half buried in ash and rotten wood pulp. Like a grave inside a tree. And deeper, lodged in the back of the hollow, where the wood had been thickest, was something that made the old man's breath catch. A skeleton. Small, curved, old. The bones were arranged wrong, like it had been stuffed in there. The skull tilted, the jaw hung open. An old woman's skeleton. The servant woman behind us began to cry silently, shoulders shaking. The old man's voice was almost gentle now, heavy with confirmation. "Mata Susmani." Someone whispered. Her grave was empty. The old man nodded once. "Kionki wo zahanti." Because she was here. Sharmaji stumbled into the courtyard then, eyes wide. He saw the bones and his face twisted. This is illegal," he whispered like the law mattered now. Mukesh wasn't there. He hadn't gotten up. He sat outside the gate still, staring at his hands. The villagers argued again, but it was different now. Less denial, more damage control. Some wanted police now, because bones are evidence. Some wanted to bury everything and pretend it never happened because evidence doesn't bring back the dead. A few young men wanted to burn the entire house down. The old man shut that down fast. "Garmat Jela," he snapped. "Bet Jalgaya. Gafi hai." "Don't burn the house." The tree burned. "Enough. Enough," a younger villager shouted. 2 men dead. Sahib dead. Creatures, what the fuck were those? Nobody answered because nobody had words that didn't sound crazy. The old man pointed toward the upstairs room. Coda banned. "Lock the room." One man balked. Body ko lujeo," the old man said. "Bakam habond." Window banned. "Take the body, but lock the room. Close the window." They didn't open the upstairs bedroom right away. Nobody wanted to, but they had to remove Raghavendra. They had to take him to be cremated. They had to tell his family. They had to do human things around a non-human event. When they finally went upstairs again, they did it like a ritual. 5 men together. No one alone. The old man stayed in the hallway, not entering. They opened the bedroom door, and the smell hit again. Burnt ghee, hot iron, and something else, sweet rot. Raghavendra lay as he had, blackened, twisted, the window still open. The branch that had tapped was now gone, burned and fallen, but the open window looked wrong without it, like a mouth with missing teeth. One of the men moved to close the window. The old man barked, "Latch! Latch it!" The man swallowed and reached for the latch. His fingers hovered a second like he expected heat again. Then he snapped it shut fast and jerked back. Nothing happened, but the room felt quieter. I remembered Rule 6 and felt a cold anger in my chest. A latched window is safer than a locked door. Safer for whom? For the men inside? Or safer for whatever was outside? Because the latch is easy to flip from the wrong side? They carried Raghavendra out, wrapped in a sheet. No one prayed for him loudly. Even the people who hated him didn't celebrate. Death that unnatural doesn't feel like justice. It feels like warning. Outside, Mukesh tried to stand when he saw the body being carried down. He took 2 steps, and collapsed. His palms were black to the mid-forearm now. Dark patches had appeared up his neck where the creature had wrapped him. His breathing sounded wet. He looked at me, eyes huge and pleading, and he said, "Help me." I didn't know how. Sharmaji knelt beside him, sobbing now, not caring who saw. "Hold on," he begged. "Hold on, Yar." Makesh's mouth twisted. "Fuck you," he whispered. Not angry, just bitter. "Your commission." Then he coughed, a thick, wet cough, and something dark flecked his lips. His eyes rolled slightly. His body went stiff for a second, then slack. Sharmaji screamed his name and shook him. Makesh didn't respond. His skin, where it had been bruised and dirty, started to darken in patches like spreading ink. The old man watched from near the gate, face hard, and said quietly, "Abhi bhi samajh nahi aaya?" Still don't understand? Sharmaji looked up at him with hatred and despair. "You knew," he choked. "You all knew and you let us come." The old man's eyes didn't flinch. "Hum maine kiya," he said. "Sahib ne ans diya. Tum paisa deke kiski vi ko gesh." We warned. Sahib laughed. "You came for money." Sharmaji's mouth opened, closed. He had no defense that didn't sound ugly, because it was ugly. By late morning, the peephole was gone. Not fully, not cleanly. The burnt stump remained like a scar. They hacked and hauled the charred pieces away. They tried to bury the bones from the hollow, but they didn't know where to put them because who buries bones that lived inside a tree? Eventually, they dug a pit far from the mandir, far from the kothi, and dropped the bones in with salt and ash like they were trying to cancel something out. The old woman's skeleton got wrapped in cloth and taken away by the old men. They wouldn't let anyone young touch it. They wouldn't let anyone speak her name near it. The courtyard ground under where the peephole had stood was black and greasy like old frying oil. Even after rain later, it stayed darker than everything else. I left that day. Not immediately. There was paperwork, arguments, threats. Raghavendra's relatives arrived by afternoon, screaming and accusing. Police came eventually because a dead landlord can't be hidden forever. They treated us like criminals because that's what police do when they don't understand a thing. They look for a human to blame. Sharmaji tried to blame us. He pointed at outsiders. He said we were careless. He said maybe we poisoned Raghavendra. He said maybe we killed him and staged it. I almost hit him. The only thing that stopped me was the sight of his fingers still dark at the tips, like the tree had marked him too, like it had kept a receipt. The police asked me if I believed in witches. I told them to go to hell. They laughed like I was stupid. They wrote their own story in their notebooks because that's what people do. They force chaos into a shape that fits their brain. They didn't write about the creatures. They didn't write about the bones in the peephole. They didn't write about the smell, the tapping, the blackening. They wrote electrocution once, and I laughed so hard it almost turned into crying. I went back to my home district with smoke still in my hair. I scrubbed my arm where the gray pulp had splattered until the skin came off. For weeks, every time I smelled ghee heating in a kitchen, my stomach flipped. Every time I heard tapping, rain on tin, a lizard on a wall, I froze like prey. I told myself it was over. The tree was cut. The hollow was burnt. The guests were gone. Then the knock started. Not at my house. Not physically. In my head at first, like a memory that wouldn't shut up. Top, top, top. Always the same rhythm. Months passed. I tried to work other jobs. I tried to drink it away a few times. Alcohol made it worse because it made my brain sloppy and the memories sharper. I stopped. On the first full moon after happened, I woke up sweating. My room was dark. The fan above me clicked, and I heard tapping on my window. Top, top. I sat up, heart pounding, ready to see some shape outside. Then I remembered Rule 2 like a punch. Do not answer. Do not look out. Keep moving. So I didn't look. I lay back down and stared at the ceiling, breathing through the panic, telling myself it was a branch, a bug, the wind, anything. The tapping stopped after a while. I thought I'd beaten it. Then, the next full moon, it happened again. And again. It became a calendar. My body knew the lunar cycle better than any priest. On full moon nights, sometime after midnight, tapping would start at my window, no matter where I slept, home, a job site, a relative's place. Sometimes it was faint. Sometimes it was hard enough to rattle glass. I didn't tell anyone. Who would I tell? Hey, I think a dead Zamandar's cursed tree is knocking at my window across districts. They'd laugh, or they'd call me mad, or worse, they'd believe me and then I'd become a problem. So I kept it to myself like a sickness. A year later, curiosity rotted my fear into something else. I found myself taking a bus back toward that village, telling myself I was just passing through, telling myself I was an idiot, telling myself 100 lies to justify one truth. I needed to see Felkothi again. I didn't go inside. I didn't even go through the gate. I stood on the road with tea in my hand and stared. The HAVELI still stood, thick walls and cracked plaster, like it had survived fire and gossip out of spite. The upstairs bedroom window was closed now. Not boarded, not bricked, just shut. But there were new iron bars across it, bolted deep into the wall. The kind of bars you put on a prison. The courtyard looked emptier without the peephole. The space where it had stood was bare soil, darker than the rest. Around it, grass grew. Near it, nothing. Not even weeds. Not even the stubborn little plants that grow through concrete cracks. A man at the tea stall saw me staring and said quietly, "Wahan kuch nahi ugda." Nothing grows there. I swallowed and asked, "Abi, still?" He didn't make me finish. "Pranima ko," he said. "Ratko." On full moon nights. At night. He lifted his chin toward the upstairs window. "Kot kot. Knock knock." I felt my skin go cold. I asked, "Who knocks?" The man's mouth tightened like he regretted speaking at all. "Mayman," he said finally. "Guests." I walked away before my tea cooled because I didn't want to hear more. I didn't want to feed the story with my ears. But the story followed anyway. Years passed. People forgot details. They turned it into folklore again because humans can only hold raw horror for so long before they wrap it in superstition like cloth around a wound. Some said it was a witch. Some said it was jinn. Some said it was chemical gas from old storage, poisoning people. Some said it was mass hysteria. I know what I saw. I know what I smelled. I know the sound of those things shrieking as they poured out of the hollow, trunk like the tree was giving birth to rot. And I know the part nobody talks about because it sounds too insane even for villagers, that the rules were real. Not because they were magic, but because someone before us had watched people die and wrote down what gave them one more minute. I kept that rule paper. It's still folded in my wallet right now, edges soft from handling. The ink has faded in spots, but I can still read it. Sometimes, when the tapping starts on a full moon night and my chest tightens like I can't breathe, I pull the paper out and I read Rule 2 again and again like a prayer made of fear. I don't answer. I don't look out. I keep moving, pace the room, drink water, wash my face, do anything except go to the window. Because the one time I broke it, the one time I let anger override fear, I almost learned what guest means. It was 2 full moons ago. I was working a job in a different city, sleeping in a rented room above a shop. The tapping started and I was already exhausted, already angry, already sick of being haunted by something that shouldn't have a postal address. "Talp! Talp! Talp!" I sat up and I whispered, "Fuck off." Just that. Quiet. The tapping stopped. My heart jumped with stupid triumph. Then from outside the window, a voice spoke. Soft. Female. Familiar in that way nightmares are familiar. Paani. Water. My throat locked. My skin prickled. I stared at the wall opposite the window, refusing to turn my head. The voice came again, a little closer like someone leaning in. Paani. My mouth went dry. I could taste dust. I could smell burnt ghee faintly, like a kitchen in another world. Rule 7 screamed in my head. If an old woman asks for water on the veranda, give it in a steel loda and set it down. Do not hand it to her. I didn't have a loda. I had a plastic bottle. The tapping started again, slower this time. Talp, 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 leak patience. I couldn't see the window, but I could feel it. I could feel something on the other side, waiting, listening to my breath. I got up, legs shaking. I grabbed the steel tumbler from my shelf, the only steel thing in the room. I poured water into it with trembling hands. The water sounded too loud, like it was announcing me. I walked toward the window without looking at it. I crouched and set the tumbler on the floor near the sill, like the servant woman had done in the courtyard. I kept my eyes down. I didn't reach out. I didn't offer it in my hand. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the water in the tumbler rippled, a tiny tremble like something had breathed near it. The air got colder. The smell of hot iron spiked. A soft laugh came from outside. Not a friendly laugh. A laugh like dry leaves rubbing. Then, very gently, a fingertip tapped the glass from the outside. Talp! My whole body went rigid. I couldn't breathe. The fingertip slid downward, slowly, like tracing the edge of the sill. I backed away on my hands and feet like an animal, eyes locked on the tumbler on the floor, refusing to look up, refusing to give it the satisfaction of my face. The tapping stopped. The cold eased. When I finally dared to look at the tumbler, the water inside had turned cloudy, like ash had been stirred into it. And floating on the surface were tiny gray hairs, thin as thread. I dumped it outside in the drain like it was poison. I scrubbed the tumbler until my fingers hurt. I still threw it away the next day. That's why I'm telling you now. Because whatever knocked at fell Kothi's upstairs bedroom window all those years, whatever came out of that hollow trunk, whatever left an old woman's skeleton inside a burnt tree, it didn't end when the tree fell. The villagers did what humans always do. They cut down the obvious thing and told themselves the problem was solved. They locked the bedroom. They welded bars on the window. They built their mander bigger. They moved on. But on full moon nights, someone still knocks from the outside of that locked bedroom window, waiting. And if you think that's just village superstition, fine. Laugh like Raghavendra laughed. Mock it. Read your holy book like it's a joke. Call it hysteria. Call it gas. Call it anything that lets you sleep. Just remember this. If you ever hear tapping at your window on a full moon night and the air suddenly smells like burnt ghee and hot iron, don't answer. Don't look out. Keep moving. Because guests don't knock to say hello. They knock to see if you're home.